Hey everybody, this is Russ Franchise. A new episode of the Frenzy Presents Fantasy War Room is on its way. But first, if you love podcasts, and I know you do, show some love to this great podcast. They support us, so you should support them.
Football, football, football. I guess it's football season.
Hey sports fans, are you a fan of all the drama?
So presumably, yes. That's why everybody tunes back in to the sports, right? Not for the competitive sports stuff.
No, every week you tune in and you want to find out which players are dating the other players and which ones have the concussions this week. Well, you know what else has teen drama? Degrassi.
That is the Canadian teen soap opera Degrassi.
Yep.
Doop 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 doop.
So join me, Michael Dillon,
and me, Rebecca Shortall,
on Drunk Degrassi. We upload every Tuesday. We're watching the entire series and talking about it while drunk.
We come up with a corresponding cocktail and a drinking game for you to play along with the episode.
So to summarise, cocktails and teen drama. Everything you love about sports in a new podcast. Drunk Degrassi.
Drunk Degrassi. Come in every Tuesday. iTunes, SoundCloud. Yes.
Welcome to the Frenzy Presents Fantasy War Room for Week 5. This is Russ Franchise. Yes, I know yesterday's show. If you listen to the Frenzy, which you should always listen to the Frenzy, it comes out every Wednesday. Subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or maybe even just like us on our Facebook page, the only page to get the Frenzy, facebook.com/franchise frenzy. I said that Fantasy Buddha wasn't in the right place of mind, but he sent me a text today. And he said he's feeling fine, so I'll introduce him in a second. But once again, just want to reiterate that, we are based in South Carolina, and this past week we have been flooded out. It's called 1,000-year flood for a reason, because it only happens once every 1,000 years. And, put it into perspective for you guys. South Carolina received 4.4 trillion gallons of water. 4.4 trillion. We got more rain than California will see in the next 5 years. So you can see how we're dealing with. We had some old dams kind of explode on us. A lot of people are homeless and because of the flooding and whatnot, but it's amazing. And in Fantasy Buddha will probably say on his end, because he's Charleston, who I would have thought would have gotten the worst of it. The devastation is real down there. It's real up here. So if you can help out in any way possible, I put up some links on our Facebook page, facebook.com/franchise, or you can simply go to redcross.org. Any money that you give will hopefully come help us out in South Carolina. And, we appreciate it. And, as I said yesterday, this is an escape for me and Matt. Me and Matt love football. We love talking fantasy. We love talking about wrestling and Dancing with the Stars. It's the way we, distract ourselves from what's going on. And, if we can help you distract yourself from what you're going on, whether it's, heavy work or, just, despair with your house, we're happy that we could provide that. So, I'll start with the emotional pull, and I'll introduce my own Fantasy Buddha, Matt Carroll. What up, Matt?
Hey, Franchise. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, sir. You guys are dry, safe, and comfortable out there?
Well, we're not dry,
right.
That's for certain. All that water that's getting released in Columbia is heading this way, and I actually drove over one of the bridges earlier today. And I tell you, I've never seen that thing. I think they're still expecting it to crest about another 2, maybe 3 feet.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. The edge of it that I saw was about a half mile outside of its bank, and this is typically a river that's about 100 yards across and about 15 or 20 feet deep.
Right.
At any given point. So, it reached real really, really high, and I think they're going to be closing that road down. But that's kind of where we're at. Unfortunately, I think most of downtown is dried out. I was down at the Citadel earlier today, and didn't see too much water.
And I mean,
so at this point, it's just the rivers.
Yeah, and just to put in perspective, Charleston's, as everybody knows, Charleston's, on the coastline. Columbia is about maybe a good 150 miles from there, and a lot of our water is coming down. But that's only because a lot of the flood rain that came from the upstate is now starting to trickle down into Columbia, into Charleston. So it's a clusterfuck, if I can say it. But, Fantasy Buddha's okay. I'm okay. Our fantasy football teams might not be okay, but that's why we're here, to try to fix fantasy problems for this week, sir.
Yep. And I tell you, I almost had that win this week against Trey Mysterio. And I was trying to plead with that bonehead commissioner of ours to make an adjustment. Luckily, Yahoo made it with the fumble on the Monday night game, but it still kept me. I was still 2 points down. So Return to Raw Mexico goes to 2-2, but we're looking to rebound this week against some scrub team that it's really not even worth mentioning at this point. So
I know. Wait. You mean that championship team, right?
Like I said, we're just not even going to mention right now.
We will mention that team name when we get to it. I don't have. Unfortunately for me, if my phone was working this week, I would have a voicemail from James Lamberts, but he didn't. I couldn't get a voicemail from him. He sends his wishes. And, let me see if I can do a good James Lamberts here. Russell franchise is talking practice loss and return to Ron Mexico loss. Now back to you two stooges.
That's fairly accurate. You forgot the key line. Here we go.
All right.
Hey guys, I like to screw the Matt any way possible because he's the worst and I'm the best.
Wow.
And I just don't know. I just don't know anything about fantasy football. But I work for ESPN and I'm cool.
Man, we're gonna get fined.
Oh God, he's going to be so mad.
He's going to be
so mad. I say that with all the love in the world.
Man.
And we're not mentioning your receding hairline.
The one time I had $25 to give you, sir, it's gonna go pay your fine. So
yeah,
let's make you work for that fine payment that you're gonna pay on this coming Monday.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right, let's start off.
Hold on.
All right.
Now, I didn't bring the knowledge last week when it came to Dancing with the Stars. I was behind, but I got caught up.
Yeah,
and in the rain, in between bouts of losing power, my beautiful wife Amanda and I sat down and we watched. We had a little Dancing with the Stars, a little Doctor Who marathon. Mm-hmm. So I'm ready to go. You want my notes from the past 2 weeks of Dancing with the Stars?
You know what? I'll give you 2 minutes. Go.
All right, 2 minutes. Here we go.
2 minutes.
All right. So I'll be honest with you. Andy Grammer's probably the sweatiest person I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Are we tired of Paula Dean yet?
I think America was tired of Paula Dean a long time ago, sir.
Absolutely. The Alexa Vega girl from Spy Kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. She grew up.
Yes. And I will never watch that movie the same way again. I'm really tired of Alec, the soldier and the train hero, because he's handsome and he can dance really well.
Wow, that's
and
jealousy.
He's famous.
Jealousy.
And he could probably score just about any woman in the world right now.
Right. Jealousy.
Nick and Sharna's
Vietnamese
waltz gave me goosebumps. Did you see Bendy's quick step on that hurt ankle?
No.
And the dance in honor of her father? Tearjerker.
Wait for you to get to Waiting for you to get to my boy.
I'm just tired of Alfonso at this point.
Well, I mean, he's stepping in for his Tom Bergeron's dad, who's pretty much knocking on death's door right now.
I understand that. I don't like it. I'm tired of it.
Right.
It's annoying.
So you're tired of Colton?
Do what?
Are you?
No, I'm tired of Colton. I'm tired that he's living off of that. Now, granted, Isla never was, but he's like at best, he's a C-list celebrity.
Right.
And the only reason I enjoyed having him around was because he was dancing with Whitney last year.
Right.
He's not with Whitney anymore. And Whitney, by the way, holy cow.
Right.
But just in general, he's not with Whitney. Let's get this bum out of here. Go back to America's Funniest Home Videos, guy. Come on.
He starts hosting it this week.
Oh, gee. Still a thing? I mean, get out of here with that.
Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. It might ring again. I fucking hate it when it does something like this. All right, go ahead.
I'm just tired of Alfonso, and I love Emma. Got a big crush on Emma, but what the hell is Vine? What is Vine? How did you get popular by making a 6-second video on Vine?
Well, the thing is, if you do multiple 6-second videos, you can pretty much hold your own.
So maybe we should do that because, I mean, God knows America wants to see our ugly mugs on a weekly basis blowing up your Facebook timeline.
See, here's the problem, because I tried Vine, and it's a great thing if you use it. Here's the thing, and you have to be really funny. Now, I'm funny, but I'm not 6 seconds funny enough.
You're like, I've got 2 jokes in you. You're not as annoying as you were 20 minutes ago, funny.
Yeah. Like, I like to give you setups and premises and whatnot. I like to make you think. I can't.
Well, I mean, you know, I made fun of Lambert's receding hairline earlier. I'm bald, so
Right.
I can't say anything.
Well, you're respectfully bald.
Well, okay. I'll tell you the secret. I'm balding on top, and I have a receding hairline.
All right.
So I said, screw it, and I went Michael Jordan and just shaved it all off. The only difference is that I'm twice Michael Jordan's size. I'm not black, and he pulls bald off better than I ever will.
Right.
So.
Yeah. There's still hope.
But anyway, so that's where I'm at with Dancing with the Stars. I'm having a lot of fun watching this season. I had a blast with the Backstreet Boys throwback this past week. Is it Nick Carter?
Mm-hmm.
And but this season's really fun. I mean, I actually kind of miss Gary Busey. You talked me into it.
Yeah. I mean, like Gary.
As soon as they get rid of Paul Dean, we're good to go.
So they already got rid of my boy Gary?
Yeah, Gary was gone. I guess Gary went this past week, I think is what it was.
He's gone.
And
Guys only never existed.
I mean, when you think about it, okay, so get rid of Gary, get rid of Paula. They got rid of Shaka Khan.
They got rid of Shaka Khan?
Yeah, she was gone week 1.
God.
She didn't have a shot. She was either gone week 1 or week 2. I think it was her, and then it was the jock. And so once they get rid of Paula Dean, man, that cast is going to be really good. There are some people who can dance. The girl from Spy Kids and her husband, that guy's got some moves as well. Anyway,
I think you stepped.
beyond 2 minutes.
I think you stepped your game up this time, sir.
I did. I brought it hard. I told you I was going to.
All right. Well, let's go hard on the games that we have right here. And week 5, one thing I wanted to touch on, especially from a fantasy standpoint, now we're starting to see the bye weeks come around. Last week we only had 2 teams come around, Patriots and Titans bye weeks. This week, you know, Panthers, Vikings, Jets, and Dolphins are on bye weeks. I'll ask you the first question first. When you have, you know, starting players that you depend on, so we'll say you have AP or Cam Newton or even the Jets defense. When they go down, let's say you did all the right things during draft, you factored in the draft weeks and whatnot. How do you play during a bye week, especially a heavy bye week like this?
Well, the thing is that I've been playing fantasy for, I want to say, 2005 at this point, and I've never seen anybody run the table. So you're not going to run the table. What it all boils down to is, when you draft, unless you're really in-depth and you draft around a bye week strategy, that you're going to lose probably 2 or 3 games just because of bye week, because of bye week issues.
Right.
So what I like to tell people is that, with those 2 losses, don't sweat it. Hopefully you have some depth, and hopefully your depth is able to carry you and make you at least give you a fighting chance. But I'm not going to go dropping players in a 10 or 12 team league in an effort to chase points that may or may not be there.
All right.
And we do have a couple of options this week for pickups along the waiver wire in a 10 or maybe a shallow 12 team league that'll get you to where you need to be. And we can discuss those, but we do know that this week, we have the Panthers, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Vikings on the bye.
All right.
So if you'd like, I can give you a couple of ideas on how to work your waiver wire and maybe get a couple of steals that may put you over the top in those leagues.
All right. Yeah, because I'm in bye week hell in one league.
Yeah, and so I basically went off of what I figured would be probably a 10-team league, maybe a 12-team league, but with the Panthers, you're really only losing out on Cam Newton, Greg Olsen, and Jonathan Stewart.
Right.
With the Jets, you're losing out on Fitzpatrick in a deep 14-team league or a 2-quarterback league, and then obviously Eric Decker and Chris Ivory. The Dolphins, I really think you're only going to be starting Tannehill as a every week starter.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Vikings, you probably have Bridgewater, Wallace as a flex, and then of course Adrian Peterson.
Right.
And as always, I'll be honest with you, I always love Kyle Rudolph. I just feel like he's going to break out at any point. But anyway, so to give you a couple names that you may want to consider starting, and this is based off of a 12-team half-point PPR league available. I have Colin Kaepernick, who's going up against the Giants. I think that's probably a solid 10 points there. Jameis Winston against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to cover them later on in the start and sit 'em.
Okay.
Derek Carr's available. That's against the Denver defense. In a pinch, I would start him there. And then you start dealing with Alex Smith against Chicago. I would definitely do that matchup there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's about it. So I would feel comfortable starting any of those guys if I didn't have any depth on my roster. Also interesting to note, Jay Cutler returns this week.
Right. Oh, he returned last week.
Oh, that's right. He was back this past week, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So Jay Cutler has, I'm trying to think who they play this week. Bears play.
The Bears play the, had them on the show. The Bears are playing the
Chiefs.
Yeah.
So, pretty good defense, but, I think he's probably a low streaming option. Obviously in a 2-quarterback league, but if you're hurting, 12, 14 team league, everything else is dried up.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely somebody with Alshon Jeffrey, Bennett, Matt Forte's, top 3, if not the number 1 PPR running back in years past. It's definitely somebody that I would consider at least stashing going forward in case you have an injury, like with Cam Newton last year.
Right.
Heading towards the playoffs.
Well, let me ask you this, because we do have a couple of 2 teams coming in, Patriots and the Titans coming back. The Patriots, I heard an amazing stat since Belichick. The the Patriots have won 12 out of the last 16 games after a bye week.
Oh, wow.
So how important is it, when you're taking a look at a player like, Brady, or even a player like Mariota? Do you want to throw him in as soon as possible, or even with Mariota, do you want to kind of maybe take a week off to see if he does anything this week?
I'll be honest. It depends on what your lineup is consisting of. Mariota has been a pleasant surprise, throughout the season. Now, granted, we've talked about this before. A lot of it's dink and dunk, but he's established a pretty good pace. He's the 77th overall ranked player in fantasy. He's got 61 points in standard leagues, and in a half-point PPR, he's averaging at least 15 points a game.
Right.
So, as compared to, say, a James Winston, who is going to be his contemporary that he's going to be compared to, I'm taking Mariota all the time.
Right.
I think Mariota is somewhere between QB 11 and QB 14, give or take. I'm going to take Mariota over Cutler. I'm going to take Mariota over probably Cam Newton at this point. Again, depending on the matchup. So I like Mariota, and I have no problem if you want to bring him off the bye and start him immediately. I think you're going to be fine. The thing with the rookie quarterback is that there are going to be growing pains, and you can't expect an exceptional play every week.
Right.
Now, with somebody like Tom Brady, I mean, you're going to play him, consistently, unless there's something to worry about with an injury. I don't think that a 1 week off is going to put the rust on somebody like a Tom Brady.
Right.
And I have no problem starting him.
All right. Well, let's get off the bye week situation. I want to delve into the Colts situation right now. The Colts.
Yeah.
We had Hasselbeck start in place of Luck and get the win, but now it's being reported that Hasselbeck is injured. So now, going into Thursday night's game, you don't really know if Hasselbeck's going to get the start or if Andrew Luck's going to get the start. How do you approach it if you have players like Moncrief or T.Y. Hilton or even Frank Gore, people who kind of depend on a quarterback play? Is it safe to say, since they're going up against the Texans tomorrow, is it safe to say that maybe you shouldn't start their players, or is it more of a game time scenario?
See, here's the problem: is that it's very difficult with this Thursday night game. Okay, in that you have to make the decision as opposed to, say, a Monday night game or a Sunday night game. Everything that's happened. You can go through and say you know that Luck is questionable. Let's just say Luck's questionable and Hasselbeck is not.
Right.
If Luck's questionable, you go ahead and pick up Hasselbeck, Friday or Saturday before one of your opponents have the opportunity to.
Right.
I was actually talking to somebody in the XFL, and he actually went through and dropped multiple players and picked up all of options that somebody had for Marshawn Lynch. So it would have been Fred Jackson, and I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Rawls, the guy who ended up getting the
Terrence Rawls.
Parody.
Terrence Rawls.
What is it?
Terrence Rawls.
Yeah, and and basically handcuffed the guy to where he had to start Lynch, and it ended up working in his favor. So what you want to do is you're going to want to play it safe, and I don't think I have a problem starting Hasselbeck, but I wouldn't start. I would probably play Moncrief or T.Y. Hilton, depending on my roster. At best, wide receiver 3 or flex. If it's anybody other than Hasselbeck. But if I have another option, I'm probably going to start him, particularly against a tougher matchup. Not that the Texans are super tough.
Right.
But they have a good pass rush. And that's the thing that worries me. You get somebody, I don't even know who's the third string quarterback for the Colts.
Colts. I would probably have to look it up, sir.
I'll look it up. Give me 1 second.
All right, because I'm not as much as we like to follow football here. We're not really. We don't know every depth chart.
So it's pulling up the depth chart right now. ESPN. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to tell you who we go with because they don't pay us.
Yeah.
Okay, so
One day
they're only showing Luck and Halfback. So everything that I'm hearing is that you can pencil in Luck. But man, that's tough, isn't it? I mean, that makes it really tough. And knowing that they probably revert back to Luck, you have to figure that an injured Andrew Luck with against that matchup with, say, a T.Y. Hilton or Andre Johnson or a Dante Moncrief, I think you feel pretty comfortable, making that start. They're not going to be your number one guy. But if you play in a 3-wide receiver league or a flex position, I'm comfortable putting him in that position.
Right.
As a Moncrief owner, I'll be playing Moncrief this week, more than likely.
Right. All right. Well, let's see. I'm trying to go through everything. Let's go through the quarterback situations, because right now injuries are kind of affecting everybody. Of course, Drew Brees is still kind of battling through his injury. We just got Jay Cutler back. From a keeper standpoint, especially if playing on possibly keeping your player or looking towards the future, which quarterbacks right now would you say are worth keeping if you had to plan for next year?
So I'm guessing with a keeper, we're going to say, I'll go ahead and put the parameters that we're talking between 2 and 4 keepers.
Yeah.
And then let's say it's not based on draft position. Let's just say that it's just in general. Obviously, your big guys are going to be are obvious. Your Andrew Luck, your Aaron Rodgers, and then probably a Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Brady has a lot more value if you have a Rob Gronkowski.
Right.
I think that, because, as we've said, he's going to drop.
Right.
And a lot of it depends on value versus, whether or not the player has, you're going to be charged a value. So, like with XFFL, if you took, I have Derek Carr as a 10th round pick. If I wanted to keep Derek Carr next year, he's worth a 9th round pick.
Right.
And the following year, he's worth an 8th round pick. So, as a Carr owner and as a Cooper owner and as somebody who likes to double dip, I'm already planning that Carr Cooper, keeping that in the back of my mind about, hey, value in what I have that versus value in where I can get him. And I'm going to be looking at possibly having Gurley on my roster next year, potentially having TJ Yeldon. So I might have to go Cooper and Gurley, dropping Carr because it's a 2-quarterback or it's a 2-keeper league. And I know that I'm probably going to pick Carr back up between 7th and 9th round, more likely than not.
Right.
So with that being said, the only ones that I would seriously consider keeping would be Luck, Rodgers, potentially Wilson, and then I would strongly consider keeping a Matt Ryan if I have a Julio Jones, and if it's say a 4 or a 16. If you're talking dynasty,
mm-hmm.
I'd say anywhere in the top 15, depending on how deep you are at your other positions. Because that's always the other question. If you have, let's say you lucked out and you have Lynch and Andre, let's say the running back from Arizona. What's his name?
Johnson.
Yeah,
Chris Johnson.
No, not Johnson.
Ellington?
Ellington. Excuse me. Terrible radio. Let's say you have Ellington at a 3rd round value and Marshawn Lynch at 1st round value, and you have a a strong tight end in Delaney Walker, or a Julius Thomas type person, then yeah, I would strongly, there's a lot of value there, so I'm going to keep my quarterback. Or I would consider throwing my quarterback away depending on how much depth that I have and what's going to be made available.
All right.
So you always just got to know what's the depth look like, and going forward, and because you always have picks. Maybe you have Matt Stafford.
Right.
Is Stafford worth keeping, or do you want to take the depth, or take a flyer on a couple of rookies, and then go pick up a quarterback in the first round next year? Because there's always going to be a Kaepernick, a Bridgewater, Joe Flacco type player out there.
All right.
I'd rather take the risk on a prospect, or getting a higher pick, trading that person away and getting a pick and taking a gamble in that way.
Are you seeing any trends right now in terms of, teams that are getting, kind of handcuffs that you can get, or players on the rise that we should be vigilant of, especially as we go into the middle part? We're almost reaching the midpoint of the fantasy football season. What trends are emerging in front of you that we should take a note of?
I can't, as far as when you say trends, that's kind of it's a broad question. I'll tell you what I'm seeing. And you have seen this yourself in our XFFL league. We didn't have any trades until the final game on Monday.
Right.
Yesterday, we had 4 or 5 trades, and I was involved in one myself, and I'll tell you about that here in a second. I'll tell you about that in the start sit-em category. I was having a conversation with with the commissioner, Lamberts.
Right.
Who's the greatest and I'm the worst.
My name is Jason. Hey guys.
Sorry, Lamberts, your phone's breaking up. What was that?
Yeah. Hey guys. Hey.
So we were talking about a potential trade that was in the works, and I don't know where we stand on it. But you have a pretty good idea right now, based on week 5, what you're going to need to win pretty consistently in your league,
right,
and what you're going to need to get to that point. So I'm looking at, just to give you an idea, and not to make it too much about me, but I'm looking at my roster in the XFFL.
Right.
And on average, the winning number of points is 142 points. So I feel like I need to get to 142 points, and on a roster that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's funny, Lambert just texted us about Hurricane Daniel.
Yeah.
His little ears are burning.
Man, he knew all along.
He knew it. Is this streaming alive?
No. He's Spygate. Spygate. Spygate.
That's what it is.
Ah.
So.
And you know what he did? He purposely texted that just as the Rangers scored a second goal. It's opening night for hockey. Hey, we do both. Any sport except for soccer is covered here. But
I actually have. I'm in 7 leagues.
Right.
But one of the leagues we do, it's a dynasty year round, and so we have dynasty hockey, dynasty football, dynasty baseball, and dynasty basketball. And let me tell you, preparing for one of those coming in for the first year is incredibly stressful. But we'll talk about that in another show, because it's actually pretty interesting starting a dynasty hockey league. But anyway, back to Return to Ron Mexico, my team in the XFL. So I'm 2-2. I know I've got to have 141 points. I'm averaging about 127 right now.
all right.
And so what I have to do, this is a 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex league. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positions. Now, to get to that point, I have to, you got 140 divided by 9, you need 35 points a player on average?
Yeah.
That's difficult to try to, and that's just me guessing. I'm guessing it could be a little bit more than that. But the point I'm trying to make is that difficult to try to get those players to do that consistently. So your best bet is to try to have those players play the matchups against the teams that are going to give the most amount of points. And so that's why, when we talked about Derek Carr playing Chicago a couple weeks back, that was one of my higher scoring players with 25 points. When you have Mark Ingram coming up this week against Philadelphia, that's a potentially juicy matchup. We'll talk about that more.
Right.
Delaney Walker against Buffalo. Buffalo's given up a lot of points to tight ends. Owen Daniels, another tight end, against Oakland with Peyton Manning, another juicy matchup. So you're looking to try to emphasize, and that's the trend that you're looking for. Who's the player? What's the matchup that's going to give me the most bang for my buck, while not being cute, that's going to allow for me to hit the most points that I can possibly get. So start as you're going throughout your week, and as you start entertaining trades, make the trade that's going to put you in the best situation, not just now, but in 6 or 7 weeks from now.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things here that you gotta factor in, especially when you factor in the fact that a lot of times I think everybody gets to a dangerous situation where you kind of go by the projected points. Keep in mind, projected points are kind of like an insurance policy. It's just saying that I take that back. Projected points are just saying, in a perfect game scenario, this is what your guy is expected to do. Sometimes, Julio Jones will be projected for 10 points, which is, I would probably say in a PPR league, 5 catches for 50 yards. Maybe that's the case. Sometimes he goes ham, goes up to 200 points. That's great. Sometimes, like this week, they use Devontae Freeman to the point where Julio Jones becomes a afterthought. Your points go down, which leaves me, if I can ask real briefly, Devontae Freeman, pretty much amazing game. Is this? And I know he's taking over for Campbell, and he's probably going to be the featured back for a while in Atlanta. Is this a train that we need to hop on right now, or do you, even as a Falcon fan, project that, the train's going to eventually stop somewhere?
Man, I'll tell you, so we talked about Devontae Freeman last week, and the possibility of how long he could. I was saying that there was a possibility that you may want to go ahead and start shopping.
Right.
Now, with that being said, he had another 3 touchdown game. 14 touches for 68 yards, 3 touchdowns. On top of that, he had 5 of 6 receptions. He went 5 for 6 in the passing game for 81 yards. Here's the thing. I think this might be legit.
You think
I don't think. Do what?
You think it's legit?
I think this has the potential to be legitimate. Do I think he's worth 3 touchdowns every week? Absolutely not.
Right.
I think he's on a hot streak right now. I think that he's living up, at least for the time being, to a lot of the hype that he had last year, because Devontae Freeman was incredibly hyped up going into last year, and he just didn't put up the numbers that were expected of him, and that's one of the reasons why Atlanta's game struggled the way that it did. You'll notice that people they could open in the receiving game up with 3 on the line and 5 in the box, and cover a Julio Jones who was also injured last year,
right?
And a Roddy White whose game is kind of crumbling. So, you're obviously going to see Devontae Freeman regress, and I think what you're going to end up seeing is potentially he could be a 15 to 20 touch guy, 50 to 75 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
And then, get some PPR love as well. The thing that I would remind everybody, though, and I said this last week, Tevin Coleman is injured, and Tevin Coleman will be returning soon, and my thought is that they still believe that Tevin Coleman could potentially be a legitimate factor in that offense as well.
Right. Well,
And so what you could see is, a running back by committee. You could see a 60-40 split with Devonta Freeman getting the majority of the work. And what that does is that makes Freeman an RB2 instead of an RB1.
right. Well,
So just be hesitant. Enjoy it while you can. I would start him every week. I wouldn't consider shopping him anymore. I'd start him until the wheels fall off at this point, because the lifespan of a running back is very short. And when you can catch fire with one like that, rob that joker for as long as you can.
I don't know. Fred Jackson's 34 years. Fred Jackson's the oldest running back in the league right now.
Well, and you do have outliers. Adrian Peterson,
Right.
Fred Jackson, Marshawn Lynch is getting up there. I think
Right.
he's probably in his late 20s, maybe. 2006 was his rookie year, if I remember right. So that puts him at 10. So he's knocking on 30's door.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys just don't have a lifespan. There's a radio show that I listen to, and they say this all the time. The easiest position to fill on an NFL roster is the running back. The shortest career on an NFL roster is a running back. So when you're able to find one, that's what you want to latch onto. And the way you know that, especially from a fantasy position, go look at what position is taken the most in a redraft league in the top 3 rounds. Find me how many times Jamal Charles, Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, Eddie Lacy are taken outside of the top 15.
Mm-hmm.
Not very frequently. And then hell, even an Andre Ellington in most leagues is probably a top 3, a second round pick.
Yeah.
Because people know the value of the running back.
Hey, you know your values, and I think Devonta Freeman is, you should pretty much play him till the wheels fall off. But that's just me. With that being said, sir, do you have a couple of moments to answer just a few questions I have for you?
Absolutely.
And now, it's that splendid time where Franchise asks Matt the same 4 or 5 questions he asks him every week!
All right. Who do I have to start today?
I really like, and I actually made a trade for this player, Vincent Jackson.
Ooh. Tampa Bay.
Seeing his numbers go up. And let me talk to you a little bit about this trade that I have. So,
All right.
I actually sold or paid up on Vincent Jackson, and I gave up Mark Ingram in a 1-for-1 trade. But, and we'll talk about this in just a second with Mark Ingram, I think Vincent Jackson has a lot of value even as you have the reemergence of Mike Evans. We talked about Vincent Jackson in week 1 and how he was essentially Mike Evans last year just without the touchdown receptions.
Mm-hmm.
Evans had, I think it was 13, Jackson had 2. But in all other scenarios, they had almost an equal number of receptions and an equal number of yards.
Right.
And he's doing that again this year. It's taken a little while because he has a rookie, a rookie quarterback. But he's averaging at least 50 yards every game.
And the matchup this week, they're going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's not that big on defense, so if Tampa Bay wants to have a breakout game, especially at home with a losing streak, this could be the scenario that Vincent Jackson needs.
Exactly. The Jacksonville defense has allowed just a hair over 1,100 yards through the first 5 weeks in passing alone. And that's good for 111 completions on 164 attempts and 6 touchdowns. To give you an average to what I consider to be comparable defenses, bottom half of the league defenses, the Bears have allowed 189 yards on average, and the Saints are averaging 258 yards passing on average. So they're allowing, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is allowing more yards on average than both the Saints and the Bears.
Right.
So that gives But with that being said, I think that Jacksonville's still going to be in the game, and I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be passing the ball a lot. And I think this is going to be a good week for Vincent Jackson. Now, granted, there is a little bit of a hype of him coming off of a 10-catch, 147-yard, one-touchdown game.
Right.
But I still think that he's good for, at least 7 or 8 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown.
All right.
And that's double-digit points, and that's money in the bank in my book.
All right. Who should I not start?
So I told you that I traded Vincent Jackson for Mark Ingram.
Right.
And that's kind of the reason why I have Mark Ingram not on the sit list, but on the you may want to consider not playing this guy as frequently as you were playing him list. The reason is C.J. Spiller, the bemoaned, belittled ex-Buffalo running back, is now in New Orleans, in case you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And
last
week,
he caught Drew Brees' 400 touchdown in an overtime game.
Yep, an 80-yard touchdown run. Now, obviously, Ingram is still he eats first in that offense.
Right.
Spiller is starting to take a larger role, and he played 21 snaps of the 73 offensive plays on Sunday night's game.
Right.
That's not to mention that you have Kyrie Robinson as the third back in that system. So Spiller had 21 snaps. He only had four rushing attempts the week before.
Right.
The other thing that's helping him is that Spiller is he's the passing back. Last week alone, or the week before, he caught 5 passes for 99 yards and a touchdown. This week, he obviously had the 80-yard touchdown. So you're going to see Spiller start to take a larger role. And I think what that does is that puts Ingram at the low RB2 position and Spiller as a strong candidate for a flex.
Right.
And again, always remembering that you have Kyrie Robinson who could come in and vulture a goal line touchdown. Now, they do have a really tasty matchup against Philadelphia this weekend.
Right.
So I don't know if I would necessarily sit Ingram this week, but going forward, it's something you definitely want to be on the lookout for.
All right. So pretty much with Mark Ingram, it's not a total sit down, but it's kind of one of those. If you have C.J. Spiller or Ivory on your in your team, you might want to consider putting them above, especially C.J. Spiller above Mark Ingram in that lineup.
And that answers that. You asked about trends earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the trends that you're always wanting to look for. How are your players consistently getting the touches in the rushing game or the reception or the attempts in the passing game compared to the players around them?
Yeah,
we talked about that a lot.
It makes you kind of
it
makes you kind of question because we talked about yesterday. DeMarco Murray, he only got 8 carries for 36 yards, which is uncalled for, especially if you had DeMarco Murray last year where he was averaging about 20 to 25 yards. 20 to 25 carries a game.
Yes. And that's the thing that you have to look for. You have to see, you have to be comparing those guys. You can't just go off of name value alone. And that's why I went ahead and pulled the trigger, because I know that I have T.J. Yeldon, an up-and-coming star who is only really handcuffed by the fact that this quarterback gets down early and has to throw a lot. I know I have I have Todd Gurley. As much as I dislike him, I have Jonathan Stewart, who I can always play in a pinch. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of value there to kind of shore up some or what I need at wide receiver.
All right, let's go into who am I picking up, sir?
So we've had a player, a big name player who's injured for most of the year that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, and that's Julius Thomas.
All right.
And he plays on that beleaguered Jacksonville Jaguars team. So Julius Thomas was the 6th best tight end last year. Granted, he played in Denver, he played with Peyton Manning, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that was touchdowns. But I think what you're going to see going forward is that starting around week 6, Julius Thomas is scheduled to return.
Right.
he in the 2014 season he had 161 points. Like I said, that was sixth best. And it's not like Jacksonville has any great shakes at tight end. They have Mercedes Lewis, and I think it's Charles, not Charles Clay, but that other guy starts with a C. And the point I'm trying to make is their tight ends have 3 receptions all year.
Right.
So I would go ahead and add Julius Thomas, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you do this in the XFL, we're going to fight because I've got to go to figure out who I'm going to drop.
No, it's all you, sir.
Do it tonight.
It's all you.
So I would go ahead if you're struggling in the tight end category. If you don't have a Delaney Walker, obviously a Rob Gronkowski, a Jimmy Graham or a Greg Olsen, and you need somebody in that position, or you got a bye week coming up. I don't know if Julius Thomas is going to be a week 6 start, just because he's coming off of the injury list. But going forward, he could be what makes or breaks your team in a deeper league.
All right, who's got to go?
Trey Mason and Bobby Cunningham, because Todd Gurley. The end.
So pretty much you're saying that, because I will argue this point though. We went to go into the second half of the game. He only had 2 yards. He only had 2 yards from the first half. He pretty much made up 148 yards at the end of the game. Do you think it's just a one-time fluke with him, or do you think that we're going to start to see something consistent out of this kid from Georgia?
Look, the thing about this was that he had 146 yards on 19 rushing attempts.
Right.
And we talk about touches, and I'm sorry, it's not Bobby Cunningham, it's Benny Cunningham, not that it even matters anymore, versus Cunningham's 2 rushing attempts. No, I don't want to add Benny Cunningham. Let's go look at Trey Mason.
Okay.
How many attempts did Trey Mason have? At week 4, 2 rushing attempts. So that tells you right there, 4 combined rushing attempts between those 2. And that was against a really strong Cardinals defense. I mean, I think Gurley. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and anoint him the chosen one off of a 1 week performance. Here's what I can tell you.
All right.
They've been waiting for this kid. The kid arrived. They kind of get him in a little bit last week. He had a 4-point game, got his feet wet. This week it was off and running.
All right.
And I see no reason why a run-oriented coach in Jeff Fisher is not going to run the ball with a kid that he took with the first-round pick, fully healthy, who has the pedigree of Todd Gurley.
All right.
And I legitimately think that going forward, Todd Gurley be a double-digit guy every week for the next 5 or 6 years. This is what we've been waiting for. This is why I went up and drafted him in the 3rd, 4th round, because I knew he probably wasn't going to be there on the way back around. So I took the time, or I made the pick, and now I'm excited because I might have my franchise running back finally.
All right. Well, if you're happy, I'm happy. But I'm only happy when I make money real quick like this.
Hey, this is Nicky Falcone, and franchise's get-rich-quick scheme of the week is completely on the up and up.
Last week, sir, I finally get the win. I finally one-up you in DraftKings, sir. You thought you could, you thought you could win it all, but no. No, my team was the best. Barely, by the way.
Barely. What did that final score end up being? I don't even remember now.
I'm pulling it up right here. It was an interesting game. You led for most of the afternoon, but it was the it was the evening. It was the late games that had me going. It goes like this: you kind of went with your Raiders here, Derek Carr. Raiders, who we didn't think they would struggle against the Bears like they did. Ronnie Hillman.
That was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, T.J. Yeldon, Cobb, Amari Cooper, Julio, Greg Marshall, and Percy Harvin in the flex, 105. Now, I will say this. I started the Cardinals against the Rams, thinking that maybe this is, maybe they can repeat the same performance that they had. The Cardinals only gave me 1 point.
Yeah.
To show the fickleness, but thankfully, Aaron Rodgers, Chris Johnson, Eddie Lacy, Randall Cobb, Leonard Hankerson, Hankerson made the most of my, points, by the way, 25.3. Larry Fitzmagic with Jason Witten, 115.06 to 105.04, sir.
Yeah.
So.
And that, what got me, honestly, and this is what ended up killing me in the XFFL, they just stopped throwing to Cobb.
Yeah.
And he only got me 9 points. Julio Jones, a marginal 7. Devonta Freeman got all those points. Greg Olsen, they're just the studs. I went cheap on running back with Yeldon and Hillman and got 35 points. But my studs that I paid up for in key matchups, Cobb versus San Francisco, Cooper versus Chicago, Jones versus Houston, Olsen versus Tampa Bay. I went cheap on running back. That paid dividends. My studs didn't do anything for me.
Yeah. That's the tricky thing about DraftKings, in my opinion, is that you look at the matchups, and as I said, you play matchups, you play your strengths, and to me, picking up the Cardinals defense sounded like it should be natural, because you saw how they handled the last 2 weeks. Come into the Rams territory, Rams were just better than the Cardinals that day, and that's why they got the 1 point. So you're going to have to play the matchups and find the value here. This week, sir, I'm going to hit you with, last week I beat you with a Packer heavy team. And one thing that I realized about when you go, when you try to do like a heavy team, especially with characters like, Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be roughly about $7,400. Cobb, which is going to be another $7,400. Lacy, probably another $70. You're going to have to finagle your way. And so this week, I'm going to stick with my, plan here, but instead of going Packers heavy, I'm going to go Patriots heavy. I'm going, I got Tom Brady as my quarterback. Devontae Freeman and Chris Johnson are my 2 running backs. Chris Johnson with a nice value. Doug Baldwin, Julian Edelman, Hankerson once again. Rob Gronkowski.
I like the Hankerson.
Rob Gronkowski as my tight end. Somehow, I managed to get James Jones on a flex. Cause he's averaging about 5,000. And at that point, I was roughly at around $3,000 left to pick my defense. So, with something like that, you're gonna have to go with your best guess, especially if you've already put enough money in everything. You're not gonna, with $3,000, you're not gonna be able to get the Seahawks or the Cardinals here. So you're really playing the matchups here. I'm gonna take a chance with the Giants D over the 49ers, because I think that the Packers exposed a lot of things. When you can hold the 49ers to 3 points, 2 things are either gonna happen that week. Either they're gonna get better on offense and just beat the other team by a lot of points, or you're going to see a lot of backsliding. And I'm hoping to see a lot of backsliding when the 49ers play the Giants in order to make some money this week.
I tell you what, that sounds like a really strong plan, and I hope it completely falls and you bust your face and you lose to me. I'll tell you the lineup that I currently have. I currently have submitted for DraftKings, the official, one-day fantasy league for the frenzy.
Yeah.
I have Palmer as my starting quarterback at a value of $6,600. I don't think people realize just how strong and how consistent Carson Palmer has been, and I really like him against a mediocre Detroit secondary. I'm going back to my stud Ronnie Hillman against a not very an underwhelming Oakland front line.
Mm-hmm.
Even with not Jason Pierre-Paul, what's that kid's name that they got? Either way. Then I have Carlos Hyde. Both of those running backs are at a value of $4,900. Those are the two areas that I'm most concerned about. But again, I'm playing the value, looking for upside at running back. Playing my attempts. Hyde is obviously the number one guy. Hillman is obviously the number one guy right now.
All right.
I'm going to run with those guys. Putting my money where my mouth is with Vincent Jackson at $5,000. Value, 20th overall wide receiver. I think it should be a little bit higher. Then I have the 26th overall wide receiver on the board, John Brown, because you know I like to double dip and not just in my nachos.
Yay!
Value of $5,100. That's right, I'm that guy. Again, against Detroit, I think he's probably good for at least 50 yards and a touchdown. Then I'm paying up because I had a lot of money left over because I went cheap in every position except for two. And you can probably guess where my other one was.
Mm-hmm.
I went Julio Jones with my my third wide receiver at $9,200 against Washington, who has a good secondary, but I don't think they're going to have the cojones to go up against Julio Jones and Leonard Hankerson, who was my flex at $4,000, 21st wide receiver overall.
Right.
Of course, you know my tight end. I'm going if I don't go cheap with Delaney Walker, I'm going high dollar with Rob Gronkowski at $7,500. And then as a sleeper pick on my on my defense, I picked the wrong defense.
Mm-hmm. See, you're slipping already, sir.
I'm slipping. I'm going Bengals against Seattle. Seattle's been underwhelming. Somehow I ended up picking Detroit, and I'm like, no, that's not right. The Bengals at $2,800. I think that they're going to have the ability to put the pressure on Russell Wilson. Not sure what's going to happen with Lynch, even though I like Rawls. I think that the way that Cincinnati's playing, that defense is really sound. I didn't have enough money to go pick up the Cardinals, and I didn't like Oakland at Denver, even though Oakland has really been putting up good turnover numbers here of late. They got me 11 points last week. So I went with the Bengals at $2,800. I have nothing right now left in my remaining salary.
All right. So we're pretty much, I only had 200 left over. So we've exhausted everything.
Yeah.
So we got that going. So as always, we'll give you reports here. If you have any additional questions that you want to ask me or Fantasy Buddha, as always, Facebook.com/franchise frenzy, the only place to catch the frenzy, as well as, following Matt Carroll online at Franchise Buddha on Twitter and on Instagram for any help. But, sir, it's the end of the show, and there's only way we can end the show, that's on promos. And this week is actually a special week for the both of us, sir. This is week 5. We are looking at the schedule, sir, and it is Talking Practice versus Return Ron Mexico. If James Lamberts was on the phone right now giving us a preview of the show, well, we got two co-hosts going up against each other. I would love to see it go to a tie. So.
Hey, both you guys suck. I'm the commissioner, and my roster is the best.
Yeah. That's why I'm taking a look at just before we get into it. I just want to see where he's at. Just pulling it up.
I really hope he doesn't listen to this episode because he's going to be so mad at us.
Oh, we're going to be fine, sir. We're going to get asked to come to the red carpet. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, we're all 2-2 at this point. This is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, 10 teams are 2-2.
I'm 7th place.
Yeah. They're all, at least 10 teams have a record of 2-2. There's only 2 teams with 1-3. So apparently every team at this point is better than the Detroit Lions. But, come on. Give me 1 second.
It is a league of parity.
It is a league of parity, sir. But
let's see who, while we're waiting, see who was, Trey picked up Richard Rodgers as a tight end. That was a really good move.
The Green Bay tight end, it works, sir.
Yeah.
So.
I tell you what, he's been doing it here lately.
So, you want to start or I start?
How about you start? Because
It doesn't matter who gets to start it, because I will finish it. Everybody knows that the franchise comes in with the championship. People know when you go up against the great one like the franchise, you cannot defeat him. And so I see your rooted pool candy ass coming over here. You know, you talk about return to Raw Mexico. How about this? The franchise says, why don't you take Raw Mexico, shine it up real nice, turn that son of a bitch sideways, and shove it straight up your candy ass. Don't break character on me. What you gotta say for yourself?
Franchise, you expect me to stand there while you're flapping your little gums?
What?
Say you didn't forget this?
What?
You didn't forget that? You
What?
lost by a point here?
What?
A point there?
What?
Should have started so-and-so?
What?
Should have benched what's-his-face?
What?
I'm supposed to stand there and let you talk about how you're not a one-hit wonder last year?
What?
You think you're funny? Talking trash about my roster? Does it make you feel good?
What?
Does it? Does
Let-
it make you feel special?
Let me tell you.
Feel proud?
Let me tell you.
Say it right now, Russ. I've heard you talk about me before. Return of Raw in Mexico coming out here with your beer belly. That ain't a beer belly, son. That's a fuel tank for a whoop-ass machine, and I'm about to open a can of whoop-ass right now. That'd be the easy thing to do.
You,
The obvious thing to do.
Raw Mexico.
The franchise is not to respond and tell you what a pile of trash I think your team really is.
Ooh.
It hurts my feelings when you talk to me like that.
Ooh.
You some bitch.
Ooh.
It'd be easy to come out and fight. But I found out in the past that a little song might kind of ease some of the tension. The song my daddy used to sing. So I'll sing you a little song right now to ease that tension between talk and practice and return to Raw in Mexico. You remember that old rock band called Boston? I'll sing you a little favorite that my dad used to sing to me as a kid. It goes a little something like this. There's a dog with that flower you got on. It would be a faded rays rose the days gone by. And did I hear you say he was meeting you here today?
Wait. The Rocks fans.
To his mansion in the sky.
Whoa. Slow your roll. Shut your mouth. Grown folks are talking.
Feel better?
The franchise.
Feel better, franchise?
The franchise did not come here to hear your drunk ass dad sing a silly ass Boston song. We were in South Carolina.
Listen. Don't talk about my daddy, and don't talk about Boston. Now sing that song to make you feel better, and I hope it does.
You know what'll make me feel better? When I lay you down on the mat with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones giving you the talking practice elbow. And the millions and millions of the franchise's fans witness me lay at the rock bottom on your candy ass. How dare you? How dare you think that you can go one-on-one with the great one? There is
Great one?
no substitute for the franchise. For I am the people's champion.
I really don't.
I am the people's champion, sir.
Listen. You're a one-shot wonder. Because this week, you're going to get the beating of a lifetime from Return to Raw in Mexico. Mexico is coming, and he's bringing Carr. He's bringing Cooper. He's bringing Gurley and Yeldon. He's bringing Delaney and Matt Bryant and the Bills defense. He's stomping mud holes, and he's walking his soul bitches dry. And that's the bottom line. Because Ron Mexico said so.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? You can come in with your Palmer. You can come in with your Cobb. You can come in with your with your own dance. You can come in with a bottle of Jack Daniels. It makes no sense who you bring. Because if you're gonna bring it, I've already brought it. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Pierre Garcon, Dexter McCluster, T.Y. Hilton, the Giants defense, Dan Bailey. Sir, at the end of the night, when they raise my hand over your dead carcass, I want you to know that we weren't talking about the return of Mexico. We were talking about the return of the franchise. If you smell what the franchise is cooking. You know, for the first time ever, we're gonna have to use the actual songs now. We don't even own the copyright to those songs, so we can't monetize the episode, but you know. It's not like we were making money anyway.
I'm actually looking at this matchup.
Uh-huh.
This is dead heat. It's 120. I'm favored to win 126, 125.
Right.
But it's essentially a pick-em.
Yeah.
50. You know, both quarterbacks. I'm actually going to start Palmer and not Carr, I believe.
All right.
24 projected points for both quarterbacks. I'm going to skip Cobb and Jones. Cooper's projected 14. Garcon for you is projected 13. I have Yeldon projected 13. You have Lacey projected 15.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna
Gurley with 13. You have McCluster at 6.
I'm gonna circle.
Both tight ends are projected 10.
I'm gonna circle McCluster. If McCluster can hold his own, we might have a shot here.
Yeah. Where it's going to come down, and here's what you're seeing is probably my starting roster. I'm taking a little bit of a flyer right now. Right now I have Moncrief out, and I have Owen Daniels as my starting tight end, and I have Delaney Walker as my flex tight end.
All right.
And that's going to be, you know, kind of the all or nothing. That and what Cobb is capable of doing against St. Louis.
Well, we're gonna
if I end up going with the two tight end set.
Well, we'll figure that out. We'll figure who wins next week, and the winner gets the glory. The loser gets made fun of by James Lambert, which at this point is
it really isn't all that bad. And
no.
Let's be honest, he's probably not even going to call in.
Yeah. We'll hold off for next week. Say goodbye, Matt Carroll.
Goodbye, Matt Carroll.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening once again. If you're in South Carolina, we wish you all the safety in the world. You can help out, as always. Go to redcross.org, Give as much as you can. Go to a blood bank. Donate some blood. Just help out any way that you can. And until next week, guys, good night. Good luck.